prospects for the Cincinnati Bengals, weren't great to begin with in 2019. And that was even before the Bengals got stung by injuries to some key players. When you look at A.J. Green for at least a couple weeks of the season. You have the new head coach there, and Zach Taylor is being asked to improve the Bengals, right, after a 6-10 season and last place finish in the AFC North. Is he ready for the gig? Given the fact that, Taylor is 36 years old. And he's only been an offensive coordinator for 5 games with the Miami Dolphins in 2015. Recently, he was the quarterback's coach for Jared Goff there in the Rams. Look at some additions here. Front office stayed the same. In building the 2019 roster. The Bengals spent $59.5 million on re-signing their own players. More than twice as much as they spent on outside free agents. And also more than twice as much as their AFC rivals combined spent on retaining their players. Doesn't even take into account the 4-year, $43 million extension that they gave Tyler Boyd that received from the Bengals in August. John Miller, former right guard from Buffalo, signed a 3-year deal for $17.5 million, $6.5 million guaranteed. Now, Bengals re-signed so many of their own. Vontaze Burfict is the only one that disappeared, with, if you might ask, some might have been a blessing in disguise. He was cut in March, actually. Signed by Oakland, so. Green had that ankle injury. That's in a contract year. Hamstring injury. Has sidelined John Ross for most of the camp. You have undrafted receivers. Damian Willis opening starting job in place of Green. Ross, returned to practice August 25th there. Unclear how he's going to be ready for, the regular season. You have Joe Mixon there. He represents a bargain for the Bengals in terms of salary. Mixon slid out of the first-round draft consideration because he committed a physical assault, right? While both were attending Oklahoma University. Cincinnati then took him in the second round of the 2017 draft. And last year he finished 4th in the league in rushing, 1168, which was pretty impressive. His cap figure, because of a second round for selection, reasonable for 1.486. The Bengals' defensive line has been their most productive, consistent unit in recent years. I think that will continue too. Dunlap, Atkins are on this team. Those two guys, by the way, which you expect big things from, because they account for a combined close to $25 million of Cincinnati's cap. Now, you have a rebuilt offensive line, which is always a question mark. John will beat out John Jerry at center. 4th-year pro Hopkins edged out first-rounder Billy Price to be the starter. Miller at right guard re-signed Bobby Hart at right tackle after the season, which Hart struggled. So there could be some early hiccups because, you know, that offensive line, Cincinnati opens at Seattle, which is a notoriously loud home field advantage that could lead to false starts, delay of game penalties, you know, that type of the whole nine. They're going to need to keep Andy Dalton upright. Although solid, Dalton hasn't developed into the franchise quarterback that the Bengals had hoped for, and that's a question. That's a question mark. You know, best case here is you hope that Green becomes healthy sooner rather than later. The offensive line can hold up, and the defense is solid. All those factors could enable a guy like Dalton and Taylor to manage games into close victories, and the Bengals thus stay kind of on the fringe of wild card contention, which is where you want this team to be, or where you see this team to be realistically. I hope all is well. Look forward to speaking to you guys very, very soon.